My name is Claire Bennett. I'm 34 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I believed I had my entire future mapped out. I had a boyfriend I'd loved for 4 years, a man I had imagined growing old beside. We had already chosen a wedding date for the following June. The vineyard 2 hours north had been reserved months earlier. Our invitations were designed and waiting in a shared cloud folder. Together, we'd saved just over $43,000 for the down payment on our first house. Nearly every Saturday, we'd wander through open houses, laughing over kitchen layouts, debating paint colors, dreaming about a backyard big enough for a golden retriever, and someday children chasing each other across the grass. I believed we had built something rare. Not just romance. A partnership. Or at least, I thought we had. Looking back now, I realize heartbreak almost never begins with one catastrophic moment. It begins with tiny fractures so small you convince yourself they're harmless. You patch them with excuses. You call them misunderstandings. You tell yourself love is bigger than discomfort. Until one day, the entire foundation gives way. My boyfriend's mother had never approved of me. From the first dinner where we met, I recognized the look she gave me. It wasn't outright hatred. It was something colder. Evaluation. She asked where I had grown up, where I attended college, what my parents did, how much experience I had in my career. Every answer seemed to disappoint her before I'd even finished speaking. When I glanced toward my boyfriend, hoping he'd notice how uncomfortable I felt, he'd simply squeeze my hand beneath the table and smile. "Don't worry about Mom," he'd whisper afterward. "She's like this with everyone." She wasn't. She was only like that with me. Over the next 4 years, her comments slowly became sharper. "Oh, you're still renting. I suppose not everyone measures success the same way. Love is wonderful, but financial security matters even more." Each insult was wrapped inside a pleasant smile. Each one landed exactly where she intended. And every single time my boyfriend laughed awkwardly, before changing the subject. Never once did he tell her she'd crossed a line. Whenever I confronted him later, his answer never changed. "That's just how she is. If I argue with her, she'll make things worse. Please, just ignore it." So I ignored it, because I loved him. Because I believed people could have difficult parents without sharing their opinions. Because I thought silence wasn't agreement. I couldn't have been more wrong. 3 weeks ago, on a cool Sunday afternoon in early November, we drove to his parents' house for dinner. His father greeted me warmly, pulling me into one of his familiar hugs. His younger sister asked about work. For the first hour, everything felt normal. Dinner was roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and vegetables from the family garden. His father asked thoughtful questions about a project I'd recently completed. He actually listened. His mother barely looked at me. Instead, she complimented her son's sweater, asked whether he was sleeping enough, mentioned how successful one of his childhood friends had become. Little comments, tiny comparisons, needles disguised as conversation. After dinner, the routine unfolded exactly as it always had. His father invited everyone into the living room. His younger sister started clearing dishes. His mother called her son into the kitchen to help clean. I stayed chatting with his father for another 20 minutes before realizing I'd forgotten my jacket upstairs in the guest room. I excused myself and headed toward the staircase. Halfway down the hallway, I passed the study. Its door was cracked open. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop. Then I heard her voice. "I honestly don't understand what you see in her." I stopped walking. Every muscle in my body froze. "Mom." My boyfriend sounded exhausted. "Please. Not tonight. I'm serious." Her voice remained calm. "Claire isn't ambitious enough for you. She doesn't come from the right family. No connections. No wealth. No future that matches yours. You're settling," he answered quietly. "She's kind. She loves me." His mother laughed softly. "Kindness doesn't build legacies. You're 34. You deserve better." She started listing women she'd met recently. The daughter of one of his father's business associates. A successful attorney. A physician she'd met through the country club. Beautiful. Educated. Successful. Single. "I am already planning a wedding. So cancel it. It's not too late." Then came the silence. The longest silence I've ever experienced. I stood in that hallway, barely breathing, waiting for him to defend me, waiting for him to say, "I love Claire. I've already chosen her. My mother is wrong." Instead, he sighed, a tired, defeated, painfully honest sigh. "I know." Another pause. "Sometimes." His voice almost broke. "Sometimes I wonder if maybe you're right." My heart stopped. If maybe. I'm settling. The hallway suddenly felt too small, too quiet, too cold. His mother spoke again. "You still have time to choose the life you deserve." "I don't know anymore," he whispered. "I really don't." I never heard another word. I turned around before either of them could see me. Walked downstairs. Collected my jacket from the front closet instead. His father looked up. "Leaving already?" I forced a smile. "I don't feel very well." He frowned with genuine concern. "Should I ask?" "No. I'm probably coming down with something. I'll head home." I barely remember driving. The road blurred beneath headlights while those words repeated inside my head like a curse. Maybe I'm settling. 4 years. 4 years together. And he still wasn't sure I was enough. When I reached our apartment, I didn't turn on the lights. I simply sat on the couch we'd chosen together. Every memory inside those walls suddenly felt counterfeit. Around 10 o'clock, I heard his key in the lock. He walked inside, humming softly. "Feeling any better?" He smiled. Then he saw my face. The smile disappeared instantly. "Claire." I looked directly at him. "Your mother thinks I'm beneath you." His face drained of color. "You heard?" "I heard everything." He closed his eyes. "Oh God. You weren't supposed to." "Weren't supposed to what?" "Find out that you think you're settling." He hurried toward me. "No. You're misunderstanding." I was trying to calm her down. "You know how she gets. If I argue, she just keeps going." "So you agreed with her?" "I didn't mean it." "You said it." I was exhausted. I just wanted the conversation to end. I stood. "So throwing me under the bus was easier than defending me." "Claire, I supported you through every career change. I stayed beside you when your grandfather died. I learned to cook your favorite meals. I smiled through every insult your mother ever aimed at me. And when she finally told you I wasn't good enough," my voice trembled, "you agreed." Tears streamed down his face. "I love you. I swear I do." I stared at him for several long seconds before asking the only question that mattered. "Do you respect me?" He blinked. "What?" "Do you respect me?" Silence. His silence answered before he ever opened his mouth. For a moment, he just stood there, his mouth slightly open as though the question had been asked in a language he didn't understand. Then, he looked away. That hurt more than anything he could have said. "Of course I respect you," he finally whispered. I shook my head. "No, you respect the life I make easier for you. You respect that I support you, that I show up, that I forgive your mother every time she humiliates me. But me, the person I am when I'm not useful to you, I don't think you've ever really respected her. That's not fair." Neither was listening to you question whether I was good enough to marry. He reached for my hand, but I stepped back. We argued for almost 2 hours. He cried. He apologized. He promised he would confront his mother the next morning. He said he had only agreed with her because resisting her was exhausting. He insisted he had never actually considered leaving me, but every explanation led back to the same truth. He had protected his own comfort at the expense of my dignity. Around midnight, I walked into the bedroom and pulled a duffel bag from the closet. His face changed the moment he saw it. "What are you doing?" "I'm leaving." "For how long?" "I don't know." "Claire, please." I packed enough clothes for several days, along with my laptop, medication, and work documents. He followed me from room to room like a shadow. "We can fix this," he said. "We can go to counseling. I'll talk to my mother. I'll tell her she was wrong. You had 4 years to tell her." I was scared. So was I. I zipped the bag and lifted it from the bed. He stood in the doorway, blocking my path without quite meaning to. "Please don't leave like this. I can't stay and pretend I didn't hear what I heard. You're throwing away 4 years over one conversation." "No," I said quietly. "I'm finally seeing what those 4 years really were." He stepped aside. As I walked toward the front door, he called my name. I paused, but I didn't turn around. "I do love you," he said. My fingers tightened around the handle of my bag. "I believe you," I answered. That's what makes it worse. My best friend Vanessa lived 20 minutes away. She opened the door, wearing pajama pants and an old college sweatshirt. She took one look at my face and immediately pulled me inside. "What happened?" I didn't answer at first. I set my bag down, sat on her couch, and stared at the floor. Vanessa disappeared into the kitchen and returned with 2 glasses of wine. Then I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she sat very still. "Do you think I'm overreacting?" I asked. Her expression sharpened. "Claire, he let his mother tear you apart and then agreed with her. He says he was only trying to calm her down. Then why didn't he say something harmless? Why did he say he might be settling?" I had no answer. Vanessa leaned closer. "You didn't misunderstand him. You just finally heard what he says when he thinks you're not listening." That night, I lay awake on her couch, staring at the ceiling. Memories replayed in fragments. The way he introduced me at corporate events, using only my first name, never mentioning my work. The time one of his friends joked that I was the safe choice, and he laughed instead of correcting him. The family dinner where his mother asked whether I planned to upgrade my career before having children. The college reunion he attended alone, because he claimed the invitation was only for alumni even though other people brought partners. At the time, each incident had seemed too small to justify a fight. Together they formed a pattern I could no longer ignore. He had not been openly ashamed of me. He had simply never been proud enough to defend me. By sunrise, I knew what I needed to do. Monday morning, I called the attorney who had reviewed our apartment lease when we first moved in together. "I need to separate my finances from my fiancé's," I told him. There was a pause. "Are you ending the engagement?" "I'm deciding." "That sounds like a yes." He walked me through the process. Because we were not married, the legal side was surprisingly simple. The joint savings account could be divided evenly. The apartment lease could be amended if my boyfriend agreed to assume full responsibility. Utilities, insurance, and shared contracts could all be separated. "How quickly can it happen?" I asked. "If everyone cooperates a few days. I want to start today." The next morning I went to the bank. It was the same branch, where we had opened the account 2 years earlier. I remembered the employee congratulating us. She had said combining savings was a sign of trust. Now I sat across from a different manager and asked to withdraw my half. She pulled up the balance. Just over $43,000. I'd like $21,500 transferred into an account in my name only. She hesitated. "Is your fiancé aware?" "He doesn't need to approve my withdrawal. It's a joint account." "That's correct. I just wanted to make sure." "I'm sure." She completed the transfer. Watching the numbers appear in my private account should have felt empowering. Instead, it felt like attending the funeral of a future that had never truly existed. My next stop was a landlord's office. I explained that the engagement was ending and I wanted my name removed from the lease. The landlord frowned sympathetically. "The lease runs until May." "I know. Your fiancé will need to sign an agreement accepting full responsibility. He earns enough to qualify a loan." The landlord checked the file and nodded. "I'll send him the paperwork." "Please do." After that came the utilities. Electricity, internet, renter's insurance. Every account was another thread cut between us. By Tuesday evening, I had removed myself from almost every shared obligation we had. I didn't tell him. Part of me wanted to see when he would notice. Another part of me already knew. He wouldn't notice until the consequences affected him. His first text arrived Wednesday morning. "Can we please talk?" An hour later, "I miss you." Then, I told my mother she was wrong. I stared at that message for a long time. He hadn't said he defended me. He hadn't said what he told her. Only that he had informed her she was wrong, as if correcting a clerical mistake. I turned my phone face down. Thursday, he called 4 times. The final voicemail came after midnight. "Claire, please pick up. I know I failed you. I know I should have said something sooner. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll set boundaries with my mother. I'll do anything. I love you. Please, don't disappear." His voice cracked near the end. For a few seconds, I almost called back. Then I remembered the pause in the study, the silence after his mother asked if he wanted my family to become part of his children's legacy. I deleted the voicemail. Friday afternoon, I was helping Vanessa repair a loose cabinet hinge when my banking app sent a notification. Someone had attempted to access the closed joint account. Transaction declined. Account not found. I knew he had discovered it. 10 minutes later, my phone began vibrating across the kitchen counter. One call, then another, then 12 messages in less than 2 minutes. What did you do? Where is the money? Why is the account closed? The landlord just emailed me. Claire, answer me. I let the phone ring again. On the third call, I picked up. What did you do? He shouted before I could speak. I took my half of the savings. You closed the account. Yes. What about the wedding deposit? What about the apartment? The lease is being transferred to you. The attorney is documenting everything. You hired a lawyer? To make sure the separation is clean. His breathing became uneven. You can't erase yourself from our life because of one mistake. I'm not erasing myself. I'm removing myself from a future you weren't sure you wanted. I told you I didn't mean what I said. Then prove it. How? Call your mother. He went quiet. Right now, I continued. Put her on speaker. Tell her I am the woman you chose. Tell her you will never tolerate her disrespecting me again. Tell her if she insults me, she loses access to you. The silence stretched between us. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Claire, he finally said, you know, it isn't that simple. My eyes closed. There it was. The answer I had already expected. It was simple when she insulted me. She's my mother, and I was supposed to become your wife. Don't make me choose. I'm not. My voice was calm now. You already did. I ended the call and blocked his number. Then I blocked his email, his social media accounts, and every profile I knew he used. That evening, Vanessa received a message from a mutual friend. My ex had gone to his parents' house in tears. His mother had held him on the living room couch and told him my reaction proved she had been right about me all along. According to the friend, she said I was unstable, vindictive, and too insecure to be part of their family. And my ex, devastated and desperate for reassurance, had nodded. He had agreed with her again. That was the moment any remaining doubt disappeared. I called my attorney the next morning. I want the final separation letter prepared. Everything. Everything. Are you certain? I looked around Vanessa's living room at the duffel bag I still hadn't unpacked. Yes, I said. I've never been more certain. My attorney sent the letter by certified mail on Monday morning. It was thorough, unemotional, and painfully final. The first page confirmed that the engagement was over. The second explained the financial separation. The third listed every shared obligation that had been divided or transferred. The joint savings account had contained $43,000. I had withdrawn exactly $21,500, no more, no less. Receipts showed that I had contributed half of every wedding deposit. The vineyard caterer, photographer, and florist could either refund those amounts or allow my ex to apply them toward another event. I wasn't demanding reimbursement. I wasn't threatening legal action. I wasn't trying to punish him. I simply wanted a record proving that I had taken nothing that didn't belong to me. The final paragraph stated that all future communication should go through my attorney. When I read the draft, I expected to feel victorious. Instead, I felt exhausted. 4 years of love had been reduced to account numbers, contractual language, and itemized payments. The document didn't mention the Sundays we spent house hunting. It didn't mention the wedding vows I had already started writing. It didn't mention how he used to kiss my forehead when he thought I was asleep. There was no legal category for promises, no section for humiliation, no column where I could calculate the exact cost of being loved by someone who wouldn't defend me. My attorney asked whether I wanted to include the engagement ring. I looked down at my hand. I had stopped wearing it the night I left. The ring was inside a small velvet box in Vanessa's desk drawer, where I had placed it because I couldn't stand seeing it beside my clothes. Return it, I said. You're legally entitled to keep it under certain circumstances. I don't want it. Are you sure? Yes. Add it to the package. I removed the ring from the box that afternoon. For several minutes I held it between my fingers. It was beautiful. Delicate platinum, a round diamond small enough to feel elegant and large enough for his mother to approve. I remembered the night he proposed. He had taken me to the botanical garden in December, when every tree was wrapped in white lights. He dropped to one knee beneath an archway covered in winter roses and told me I was his home. At the time, I had believed him. Now, I wondered how many of those words had been chosen because they sounded right. I placed the ring in a padded envelope without trying it on one last time. Then I sealed it. The package was scheduled for delivery Tuesday. I tracked it more often than I wanted to admit. At 9:06 a.m., it was marked out for delivery. At 12:43 p.m., the postal vehicle was listed as 3 neighborhoods away. At 2:47 p.m., the status changed. Delivered. Signed for. His signature appeared beneath the confirmation. I stared at it until the letters blurred. At 3:12, my phone rang from an unknown number. I ignored it. Another number called 30 seconds later. Then another. 5 calls in less than 10 minutes. At 3:26, a voicemail appeared. I didn't listen. At 3:31, an email arrived at an old personal address I had forgotten he knew. The subject line contained one word. Please. I hovered over it. For a moment, curiosity nearly defeated me. I imagined what he might have written. Maybe he was finally taking responsibility. Maybe he had confronted his mother. Maybe he had chosen me after all, only several days too late. Then I remembered something Vanessa had said. You don't need one more explanation from someone who already gave you an answer. I deleted the email without opening it. That evening I went for a long walk. The air had turned colder. Christmas decorations had begun appearing in shop windows. And every glowing display made me think about the holiday plans we had already made. We were supposed to spend Christmas Eve with his parents. His mother had assigned me dessert because, as she put it, nothing too complicated. On Christmas morning, we were supposed to visit my parents. He had complained about the drive. I had defended him when my mother noticed. The realization stopped me on the sidewalk. I had spent years protecting him from the consequences of his own behavior. I softened his comments, explained his absences, translated his silences into something kinder. Maybe that was why he had never learned to defend me. I had been doing both jobs. The next afternoon, Vanessa came home carrying groceries and an expression I immediately recognized. What happened? I asked. She placed the bags on the counter. I heard something. From who? Emily spoke to her cousin. Her cousin is friends with your ex's sister. I almost laughed. That sounds reliable. I know. It's third-hand information. Maybe fourth-hand. But the basic details seem consistent. I sat at the kitchen table. Vanessa remained standing. Apparently he's been staying at his parents' house since Friday. That doesn't surprise me. His mother has been telling him you'll come back. I looked up. She said you're trying to scare him. That women like you always return once they realize how difficult it is to start over at your age. A bitter smile touched my mouth. That sounds like her. She also told him he should wait you out. No apologies. No begging. She said you'd eventually become embarrassed and crawl back. And did he believe her? For a while, Vanessa pulled out the chair across from me. Then the letter arrived. According to the story, he had been sitting in his parents' living room when the doorbell rang. His mother was beside him drinking tea and explaining how he needed to regain control of the situation. The postal worker handed him the certified envelope. He signed for it. His mother saw my attorney's letterhead and smiled. She reportedly said, "Good. Now we'll see what ridiculous threat she's making." My ex opened the envelope in front of her. He read the first page, then the second. By the time he reached the financial breakdown, his hands had started shaking. The returned engagement ring fell from the smaller envelope and landed on the coffee table. That was when he understood. I wasn't waiting for him to choose me. I had already chosen myself. He started crying, Vanessa said. I looked down at my hands. I didn't want that. I know. What happened next? Vanessa hesitated. He blamed her. At first, his voice had been quiet. He asked his mother why she couldn't have left us alone. She told him not to be dramatic. She said the breakup was proof that I had never truly loved him. That was when something inside him broke. He stood up so quickly that the coffee table shook. "This is your fault," he shouted. His mother stared at him. "What did you say?" "You did this." She tried to remind him that she had only wanted the best for him. He told her she had spent 4 years convincing him that love wasn't enough. She answered that it wasn't. Then he screamed something no one in that family had ever dared say to her. Claire was worth more than every person you tried to compare her to. His father came into the room after hearing the shouting. His younger sister followed. My ex pointed toward the papers scattered across the coffee table. She left because I was too weak to defend her. His mother told him to lower his voice. He didn't. She supported me when I had nothing figured out. She stayed when I changed careers. She loved this family even when you treated her like dirt. "I was protecting you," his mother insisted. "From what? A woman who loved me. From wasting your potential. She was the best thing that ever happened to me." The room went silent. His mother's face reportedly hardened. "If she were really the best thing that ever happened to you, she wouldn't have abandoned you." "She didn't abandon me. I betrayed her." His father tried to step between them, but years of resentment had already broken loose. My ex accused his mother of controlling every major decision in his life. His college, his career, his friendships, even the neighborhood where we had been looking for a house. She accused him of being ungrateful. He told her she didn't want him happy. She wanted him obedient. His younger sister began crying. His father demanded that everyone calm down. Nobody did. The fight continued for nearly an hour. At some point, his mother said, "After everything I've done for you, you're choosing that woman over your own family." And my ex answered no. I should have chosen her when it mattered. Then he picked up the ring, folded the papers, and walked out. He drove away so fast that his father called twice to make sure he hadn't crashed. He didn't answer. Vanessa finished the story and watched me carefully. "Are you okay?" I didn't know. Part of me had waited 4 years to hear him say those things. He had finally defended me. He had finally confronted his mother. He had finally admitted that his silence had been betrayal. But he had done it after I was gone. After the account was closed. After the lease was changed. After the ring had been returned. Courage that arrives only after consequences isn't courage. It's panic. "Do you think he'll contact you again?" Vanessa asked. "Probably. And if he does," I thought about the man standing in his parents' living room, finally saying everything I had once needed to hear. Then, I thought about the 15 seconds of silence on the phone, when I gave him one last chance. "It doesn't matter," I said. "I'm done." Over the next week, fragments of the argument spread through their family. His mother called relatives and claimed I had manipulated him. She said I had deliberately isolated him from his family. She told neighbors that I had stolen money from the joint account. My attorney warned her through a formal notice that continuing to make false financial accusations could create legal consequences. After that, she changed her story. Now, she claimed she had always supported the engagement, but I had been too unstable to handle ordinary family concerns. People believed whatever version made them most comfortable. I stopped caring. 3 weeks after leaving the apartment, I signed a lease for a 1-bedroom place across town. The building was older. The kitchen was small. The bedroom window faced a brick wall. But the moment the landlord placed the keys in my hand, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. I moved in on a gray Saturday morning. Vanessa helped carry boxes upstairs. My father assembled a bookshelf. My mother brought too much food and pretended not to cry when she saw the unopened wedding planning binder at the bottom of one box. By evening, everyone had gone home. I stood alone in the center of the living room. No shared photographs. No wedding invitations. No furniture selected to impress someone else's family. Just blank walls and unopened boxes. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to cry. Not because I wanted him back. Not because I regretted leaving. I cried for the woman I had been before that dinner. The woman who thought love could survive without loyalty. When the tears stopped, I opened the curtains. Across the street, lights glowed inside other apartments. People cooked dinner, watched television, argued, laughed, lived ordinary lives. Mine was starting over. And somewhere beneath the grief, something new was beginning to surface. Relief. The first night in my new apartment, I slept on a mattress on the floor. The movers had delivered the bed frame but forgotten half the hardware, so it leaned uselessly against the wall while I curled beneath a borrowed blanket and listened to the sounds of the building settling around me. Pipes knocked somewhere behind the walls. A couple argued faintly upstairs. Cars passed beneath the streetlights outside. It should have felt lonely. Instead, it felt quiet in a way my old life never had. There was no one beside me shifting beneath the sheets after another uncomfortable dinner with his family. No late-night discussion, where I carefully explained why his mother's words had hurt me, only to hear that I was being too sensitive. No need to measure my reactions. No need to wonder whether defending myself would make me seem difficult. I could breathe. The wedding was officially postponed 3 days after I moved in. That was the wording he used in the message sent to our guests. Due to unforeseen personal circumstances, the wedding will not take place as scheduled. There was no new date. Everyone understood. Some people reached out to me directly. Most messages were polite and careful. "I'm so sorry. Thinking of you. Please let me know if you need anything." A few surprised me. One of his college friends, a woman named Rachel, called while I was unpacking dishes. "I hope this isn't inappropriate," she said, "but I wanted you to know something." I rested the phone against my shoulder. "What?" "We always liked you." I gave a small laugh. "That sounds ominous." "No, I mean it. You were the grounded one, the kind one, the person who made him easier to be around." Her voice lowered. "Some of us noticed how his mother treated you. We thought he would eventually stand up to her. So did I. I'm sorry he didn't." I thanked her and ended the call before my voice could break. Another friend told me that at our engagement party, his mother had complained that my dress looked inexpensive. Someone else admitted she had once referred to my family as perfectly respectable, just not our sort of people. Each revelation hurt, not because of what his mother had said. I had known what she thought of me. What hurt was realizing how many people had seen it while I kept pretending it wasn't obvious. Still, there was comfort in knowing I had not imagined the disrespect. I had not been overly sensitive. I had not destroyed a healthy relationship over one conversation. The conversation had merely revealed the structure beneath everything else. His mother reacted to the canceled wedding exactly as I expected. She became obsessed with controlling the story. According to mutual friends, she told neighbors I had panicked about marriage. Then she said I had been secretly planning to leave for months. Then she claimed I resented her son's success. Finally, when none of those stories made her look sympathetic enough, she started describing me as controlling. She said I had tried to separate him from his family. She said I had demanded he choose between us. Technically, that last part was almost true. What she left out was that I had asked him to choose between protecting my dignity and protecting her ability to insult me without consequence. He had chosen. That was not control. That was clarity. Her greatest humiliation was not losing me as a daughter-in-law. It was the gossip. People knew the wedding had collapsed. They knew her son had left her house after a screaming argument. They knew he had stopped attending family dinners. His younger sister had apparently taken his side, which only made things worse. For a woman who had spent her life carefully managing appearances, the truth spreading through her social circle was unbearable. She began telling people I was never good enough for their family. But the harder she tried to convince everyone, the more desperate she sounded. I refused to respond. My attorney handled the practical details. The vineyard refunded part of the deposit. The photographer returned everything, except the booking fee. The caterer allowed us to cancel without penalty because the date was still months away. The financial losses were unpleasant, but manageable. The emotional cost was harder to calculate. For weeks I found reminders everywhere. A folder of centerpiece ideas saved on my laptop. A sample invitation tucked inside a desk drawer. A white satin robe with the word bride stitched across the back. I donated the robe, deleted the folder, shredded the invitation. The wedding planning binder took longer. It sat unopened beneath my coffee table for almost a month. One Sunday morning, I finally carried it downstairs to the trash room. I stood beside the bin, with both hands wrapped around it. Inside were color palettes, menus, seating charts, handwritten promises, and lists of songs we planned to play. The binder represented hundreds of hours, spent imagining a life with him. Throwing it away felt like admitting those hours had been wasted. Then I corrected myself. They had not been wasted. They had taught me how completely I could love. The mistake was not loving him. The mistake was believing love required me to accept humiliation quietly. I dropped the binder into the bin. The sound echoed through the empty room. Then I walked upstairs without retrieving it. I joined a gym near my apartment. At first, I only went because the evenings were difficult. After work, I would come home to silence and find myself thinking about him. Not missing him exactly. Remembering him. There is a difference. Missing someone means wanting them back. Remembering them is simply living with the fact that they once occupied a large part of your life. The gym offered boxing classes on Tuesday and Thursday nights. I signed up without knowing what I was doing. During my first class, I could barely keep my hands in the correct position. The instructor had to remind me repeatedly to protect my face. "Don't drop your guard," she said. The words stayed with me long after class ended. For years, I had dropped my guard around people who had never earned that level of trust. I returned the following Thursday, then the next Tuesday. Soon, I began looking forward to the sharp sound of gloves hitting the heavy bag. There was relief in using my body instead of my mind. No analyzing, no replaying conversations, just breath movement impact. I started reading again too. I had once loved novels, but over the years I had stopped because my ex always wanted the television on. He said silence made him uncomfortable. In my apartment, I could sit by the window with a book and hear nothing but pages turning. I reconnected with friends I had neglected while planning the wedding. We met for drinks on Fridays, went hiking on Sundays. They never said they had warned me, even when I could tell some of them wanted to. My parents visited often. My mother helped me choose curtains. My father fixed the kitchen cabinet that refused to close properly. Neither asked whether I would forgive my ex. They understood that healing was not the same as reconciliation. About 2 months after the breakup, I received a letter. Not an email. A real handwritten letter. There was no return address, but I recognized his writing immediately. I left it on the counter for 3 days. On the 4th night, I opened it. He wrote that he had moved out of our old apartment. He said being there without me had become unbearable. He admitted he had spent years avoiding conflict because he was terrified of disappointing his mother. He wrote that every time she insulted me, he told himself he would confront her later. Later became after dinner, then next week, then after the wedding. He said he had confused keeping peace with being kind. He understood now that peace purchased with someone else's humiliation was cowardice. There were no demands in the letter, no request to meet, no promise that he had changed. Near the end, he wrote, "You asked whether I respected you. At the time I said yes because I wanted the answer to be true. But someone who respects you does not remain silent while others tear you down. I loved you, Claire. I still do. But I understand why that is no longer enough." I read the letter twice. Then I folded it and placed it back inside the envelope. For the first time, his apology did not make me angry. It also did not make me want to return. That was how I knew I was healing. I didn't respond. Not to punish him. There was simply nothing left to say. He had finally understood the lesson. I had already paid the price for teaching it. Spring arrived slowly. The trees outside my apartment filled with pale green leaves. The brick wall beyond my bedroom window became covered in ivy. One morning, I realized the date printed on our original wedding invitations was less than 2 months away. I expected the realization to devastate me. Instead, I made coffee, opened the window, and went about my day. On what would have been our wedding weekend, Vanessa suggested we leave town. We rented a small cabin near a lake with 3 other friends. There were no vineyards, no white dress, no carefully arranged flowers. We cooked dinner, played cards, and stayed up late talking beside a fire. At midnight, Vanessa raised her glass. To the life that didn't happen. Everyone looked at me. I smiled. And to the one that did. I drank. Later, I stood alone on the porch. The lake was black beneath the moonlight. For a moment, I imagined the wedding I had once planned. His mother smiling for photographs. My ex promising to choose me for the rest of his life. Me believing the words while already knowing somewhere deep inside that he had never learned how. Then, the image disappeared. I did not feel grief. I felt grateful that I had discovered the truth before the vows. People often talk about starting over as though it means returning to nothing. It doesn't. I did not begin again empty-handed. I carried experience, boundaries, self-respect. I knew now that love should not require constant translation. It should not leave you begging someone to defend you. It should not make you feel lucky to be tolerated. I had once believed walking away meant I had failed. Now I understood that staying would have been the real failure. I would have married a man who loved me privately but would not choose me publicly. A man who wanted me beside him, as long as it did not cost him his mother's approval. Over time, that hesitation would have poisoned everything. Every holiday, every decision, every child we might have raised. I would have spent my life proving I deserved a place in a family that had already decided I did not belong. Instead, I chose myself. The legal letter had never been about revenge. Closing the account was not a punishment. Removing my name from the lease was not cruelty. They were acts of acceptance. He had told his mother he might be settling. I simply refused to remain where my worth was being debated. I'm still 34. Still single. Still living in the little apartment across town. The bedroom window still faces a brick wall, but in the summer, the ivy turns bright green, and every morning sunlight filters through it. My life is smaller than the future I planned. But it is honest. There is no one here who is embarrassed by me. No one asking me to absorb disrespect to preserve family peace. No one treating my love as something convenient rather than precious. Maybe someday I will meet someone else. A man who says my name with pride. A man who does not need 15 seconds to decide whether I deserve defending. A man who understands that choosing a partner means choosing them even when doing so is uncomfortable. But I am no longer waiting for someone else to prove that I am worthy. I already know. I was never beneath him. I was never the compromise. I was simply loving someone who had not yet learned how to stand beside the woman he claimed to love. By the time he learned, I had learned something too. Sometimes freedom does not arrive as celebration. Sometimes it arrives as a closed bank account, a returned ring, a key to a small apartment, and the quiet realization that the life you lost was never as safe as the life you can build alone.